My parents blew their savings on a luxury cruise and bad investments, then called me crying when they couldn't pay their mortgage. I cashed out my emergency fund to save their house, took over their bills, and even gave them a monthly allowance. Then, at a family gathering, my dad raised his glass and chuckled to Daniel, our full-time useless wallet with no family, no future, and no reason to exist beyond paying our bills. Everyone snickered. My mom added, "Well, he's got nothing else going on. Might as well be useful." Even my cousin's kid called me Uncle ATM. I set my drink down and said, "This was the last check you'll ever see from me." 2 days later, I went nuclear. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. So, this probably sounds like classic Reddit drama, but IDK, this is my actual family, and I seriously can't tell if I'm the crazy one, or if they've all just lost their minds. I really just need to vent. But also, I want to know if anyone else has ever had this level of weirdness with their family. If you make it through this, thanks, honestly. Anyway, it started with something that seemed small. My dad randomly asking me if I'd ever considered what it would feel like to fund someone else's retirement at a family get-together. Not like a real question, just a weird dig. I brushed it off at the time because that's kind of how he is. He says stuff that's supposed to be funny, but mostly just makes everyone uncomfortable, and then if you call him out, he acts like you're too sensitive. He's always been that way. Honestly, my mom is more the passive-aggressive type. She'll make a joke about how some people have too much time on their hands and stare at me while I'm just sitting there drinking a Coke. It's exhausting. But that comment stuck with me. I mean, I've always been the responsible one in the family, which just means I never had a meltdown over my phone bill or got my car repossessed or whatever. I'm not rich. I'm not some genius. I just pay my bills and try not to buy stuff I can't afford. My parents have always been the opposite. They'll go on about living for today and then blow half their savings on a cruise or some can't-miss investment. They're not dumb. They just genuinely think money is a thing you can always get more of if you just keep asking. So yeah, a few months ago I got this frantic call from my mom. She's crying about the mortgage, says the bank is threatening to take the house. They're out of options. All their savings are gone. I'm like, how? You were just posting cruise pictures on Facebook and bragging about the investment seminar you went to. She just sobs harder and says they made some mistakes. The market crashed, whatever. My dad gets on and starts in about how family is supposed to help each other. The thing is, nobody else in the family ever helps. My sister's living her own train wreck life, and my extended family's a mess, so it always falls on me. I'm honestly not some soft touch. I told him I'd think about it, but then my mom texts me this photo of her standing in front of the house with the for sale sign behind her. What do you even say to that? So I did it. I raided my emergency fund, set up payments on their mortgage, took over their utilities, and even started sending them a monthly allowance so they wouldn't starve or what. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough. It meant I couldn't go on vacation, couldn't get a new laptop, had to eat ramen for a while, but whatever. They're my parents, right? That's what you do. For a couple of months, it was fine. They'd call or text when they needed something. My dad would make a big show of thanking me when we'd talk, but then he'd also complain about how hard it is to get old, and how nobody told him life would be like this. My mom just sort of acted like it was normal. I'd show up at their place, and she'd ask if I could Venmo her for groceries as soon as I walked in. My sister started texting me about loaning her money too, which I ignored. So then comes my aunt's birthday barbecue. My family is big on these gatherings. Everyone shows up. Cousins, weird uncles, kids, people I barely remember. I'm not exactly social, but I go because if I don't, I get passive-aggressive texts for weeks. So, I'm there, just hanging out by the grill, trying to look busy, when my dad starts gathering everyone for a toast. I notice he's already had a few drinks, which always means trouble. He raises his glass and says he wants to thank the person who really keeps this family afloat. Everyone laughs, thinking he means my mom. But then he turns and points his glass at me and says in this loud, fake, serious voice to Daniel, our full-time useless wallet with no family, no future, and no reason to exist except to pay our bills. People kind of chuckle. My cousin almost spits out his drink. There's this awkward pause and my mom jumps in laughing and says, well, he's got nothing else going on. Might as well be useful. My cousin's kid, who's 8, pipes up and says, Uncle ATM, and everyone loses it. I'm just standing there holding this plastic cup and I can feel my face getting hot. I try to laugh it off, but honestly, it was humiliating. I look around and nobody looks uncomfortable except maybe my aunt, but she just shrugs and keeps eating. My dad's grinning like he just won a prize for funniest guy at the party. I think my mom actually thought she was being supportive. IDK. The vibe was just off. I sit down at the patio table, and my dad comes over, claps me on the shoulder, and says something like, don't take it personally. You know we love you, but it's true, right? I don't even respond. My mom asks if I can help her transfer money for her phone bill right then and there. My cousin makes another ATM joke. I just sit there, not really hearing anything. It's like everyone decided my actual role in this family is being the backup plan. I finish my drink and stand up. I don't even remember what I said, but it was something like, this was the last check you'll ever see from me. My dad tries to laugh it off, but I just walk out. My mom chases after me saying, I'm overreacting and it's just a joke. I guess I pushed her hand away when she tried to grab my arm. She looked shocked like I'd slapped her, but I didn't care. My dad yells after me that I'm ungrateful. I get in my car and just sit there for a while. I can hear them arguing in the backyard. My mom's voice carrying over the fence. I see my cousin watching me from the porch like he's waiting to see if I'm going to make a scene. I just drive off, hands shaking. When I get home, I check my phone and there's already a bunch of texts from my mom and dad. Mostly guilt-trippy stuff. My mom says I embarrassed the family. My dad says I need to grow up. I just turn my phone off and stare at the ceiling. I can hear the neighbor's dog barking and someone on the floor above me playing music way too loud. I don't even care. The next morning, I wake up to more texts, missed calls. My dad left a voicemail that's just him ranting about how nobody appreciates what he's done for this family. My mom says she's worried about me, but also asks if I can send her money for her prescription. It's like nothing happened, or maybe everything happened. I can't tell. I start thinking about all the times this has happened before. Like, not exactly this, but moments where I did something for them, helped with bills, fixed their car, bailed them out of some mess, and instead of being grateful, they just acted like it was normal, or even made fun of me. My dad's always been weirdly competitive with me, like he resents that I never screwed up as much as he did. My mom just wants peace and will say whatever it takes to keep things calm, even if it means throwing me under the bus. I realize I'm not even angry. Not really. I'm just done. I don't want to be their wallet, their backup plan, their emotional punching bag. I don't want to be the joke at the party. So I start thinking about what I can do. Like, practically, I know I'm on all their accounts. I know exactly how much money they have. And oh, because I'm the one paying their bills. I know their mortgage is in my name because I had to co-sign for the refi last year. I know what happens if I just stop. I can't sleep that night. I keep replaying the toast in my head, my mom's hand on my arm, the look on my cousin's face. I keep thinking about all the stuff I've missed out on because I was covering for weekends away, new tech, even just not having to worry. Every time I swipe my card, I start making lists on my phone. What accounts do I have? What can I shut down? What happens if I just walk away? I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I know I'm not going to keep letting them treat me like this. If they want an ATM, they can go find one somewhere else. I'll update if anything actually happens. For now, I'm just done. Update 1. Okay, so here's part 2. In NGL, I thought PPL were exaggerating when they said stuff like, wait till you finally snap. But for real, I think something in my brain just flipped after that barbecue. Like I got home and just sat in my car for a while, thinking about that whole Uncle ATM thing, the way my dad smirked. It's not even that one moment, more like a million tiny moments added up, and then I just hit my limit. So I wake up the next day, and honestly, I'm just empty. Not even mad, in a conventional way. It's more like this weird numb autopilot. My phone is blowing up with texts from my mom asking if I can send her money for her phone bill, and my dad saying I owe the family an apology. I ignore them. But then I open the banking app out of habit and see my balance, and I just stare for a sec. I scroll through the last few months of transactions, and it's like, wow, I really let them drain me. Like 4 digits out for their mortgage, then their utilities, groceries, their extra allowance. Even their streaming bills are on my card. I remember my mom saying it was just for 1 month, and I never bothered to cancel. I don't even use their accounts, lol. I start thinking about how my parents have always been about appearances. Like my dad grew up being the big man in his friend group, always talking about his connections and how he doesn't need help from anyone. He's one of those guys who brags about never reading the manual and then gets mad at the TV remote. My mom's always been about keeping the peace, but she'll do it by making someone else take the hit. Usually me, since I'm the unattached. They treat me like I'm this weird project, like I never brought a girlfriend home. So they assume I'm just this lonely nerd who'll always be around to bail them out. Honestly, I think my dad resents me because I never needed to learn the hard way like he claims he had to. He acts like I have it easy just because I didn't spend my 20s getting hammered at the same bar every Friday. Anyway, I spend the morning just scrolling TikTok as a distraction. I end up doom scrolling for like an hour, then realize I need to get groceries since I'm out of everything except ramen. I go to the store, and while I'm at the self-checkout, I catch myself wondering if my card's going to get declined because I've been paying their bills instead of mine. It's kind of pathetic, to Baha. On the way home, I get a call from my sister. She never calls unless she wants something. So I answer just to see how far the family grapevines traveled. She asks if I'm mad at mom and dad, or if I'm just having one of my moods. I tell her what happened at the party, and she just sighs and says, I'm too sensitive. She says dad was just being dad and that I should just let it go. She asks if I can Zelle her $50 for gas. I hang up. At this point, I'm just tired. I go home and start writing down every account I'm tied to. Mortgage, utilities, streaming, their phone plan, that old joint account my mom made me open in college just in case. I look at the numbers and do the math. I realize I've spent more on my parents in the last year than I've spent on myself in like the past 3. No vacations, no new phone, not even new shoes. I open my closet and see that my sneakers have a hole in them. I laugh. I check all the old email threads with the bank and the mortgage company. I remember last year my parents called me in a panic because they didn't qualify for a refi on their own. My dad had yelled at the bank manager on speaker for some reason, and then shoved the phone at me, said, "You handle it. You're the responsible one." I co-signed. I thought I was helping. Now I'm just legally on the hook for everything they do. So here's where it flips. I don't even plan this out. I just start taking action. I transfer all the money out of the joint account into my own. I open a fraud alert on the joint account online. Nothing dramatic, just a simple unauthorized withdrawals. Please freeze. I close my side of the account. I call the bank and tell them I'm not responsible for any future activity on that account and that anything else needs to be flagged. The lady on the phone is bored but polite. She asks if I want to leave a note on the account for management. I tell her yes, and I write, "No further authorization from Daniel for any transaction." I hang up and feel a little lighter. Next, I go into my credit card accounts and remove all their subscriptions and autopays. I cancel every card they've ever had access to. I flag all their names for risk monitoring in my online banking. IDK if that does anything. But it feels good. I log into the mortgage website and submit a declaration that I'm no longer making payments, and that any further request for payment should be directed to my parents. I send the same note to the bank. I print out the email, file them in a folder, and stick it in my desk. I start getting texts from my mom that the streaming services are down. She says she can't log into her account. My dad calls and leaves a voicemail yelling about what the hell did you do to the bank account. I ignore them. I get a call from the mortgage company asking if there's been a change in payment status. I say yes, and that they should contact my parents directly for anything else. The lady asks if there's a reason, and I say personal dispute, not my problem anymore. She asks if I want to be removed as an authorized contact. I say yes. My group chat with my cousins starts to blow up. One of them asks if I'm okay because my parents are freaking out. Another sends a screenshot of my mom complaining on Facebook about ungrateful children. People start picking sides. Some say that's just how your dad is. Others say you have to set boundaries. It's honestly weird to see people who've known me my whole life argue about whether I'm a jerk or a victim. I get a DM from my aunt asking if I can help smooth things over. She says my parents are under a lot of stress and that I should just call them and apologize. I reply with the story of the barbecue toast. She just says, "Oh, that's not how your dad meant it." I leave it on read. My mom shows up at my place that night, knocks on my door. I open it and she tries to come in, but I block her. She says she didn't mean any of it, that she was just following Dad's lead. She asks if I can just send a little money so they can cover the mortgage this month. I tell her, no, not anymore. She starts crying, gets louder, says I'm tearing the family apart. I tell her she needs to leave. She tries to push past me and I hold my ground. She slaps my arm, not hard, but enough to get my attention. I tell her she has to go. She starts sobbing, says she wishes I was never born if I was going to treat her like this. I shut the door. My phone keeps buzzing. My dad calls next, leaves a voicemail about how he raised me better than this. He says I'm ruining everything. I block his number. I think about blocking my mom, but I don't. Not yet. I get an email from the bank the next morning confirming that the joint account has been closed and that all cards have been deactivated. I get a text from the mortgage company saying my name is flagged for future communication. I get a letter from the IRS, just a standard thing. Not drama. But I send them a note saying I'm not responsible for any more payments related to my parents' stuff. I screenshot everything and email it to myself for record. My parents start calling my sister, my aunt, everyone. My cousin texts me saying, "My dad is telling everyone you stole from them." I tell him to check the facts. He says he'll stay out of it. I get a message from an old family friend who heard I'm having a breakdown. I just leave it. By the third day, my mom shows up again. This time, she tries to push past me when I open the door. I stand in her way. She starts yelling. Then she shoves me and I shove her back. She looks shocked, like she can't believe I'd actually stand up to her. My neighbor pokes her head out and asks if everything's okay. My mom storms off to her car, slams the door. I sit down at my kitchen table and just stare at the wall. I'm not proud of any of it, but I'm not sorry either. I'm tired of being everyone's backup plan. I order pizza because screw it, I deserve it. The next day, I get a call from the mortgage company saying the payment bounced. I say, not my problem. Talk to my parents. They say, okay. My mom texts me, says they're going to lose the house. I don't reply. My group chat is quiet for a while. My cousin finally texts me, says, wow, you really did it. I just send a thumbs up. I start thinking about what's next. Like, are they actually going to lose everything? Will they figure out a way to blame me forever? Honestly, I don't really care anymore. I guess the weirdest thing is I don't feel guilty. Not really. Maybe that means I'm a bad son. Or maybe it just means I finally got fed up. Either way, I'm not picking up the phone. Not for a while. If anything else happens, I'll post again. But for now, I'm just going to go for a walk and enjoy not having to check my bank balance every 5 minutes. They wanted a full-time wallet. They can go find a new ATM. Update 2. So yeah, I said I'd update if anything happened. And well, things escalated fast. Honestly, it's still surreal seeing how quick the mood can flip when you stop being useful to people who only ever saw you as a resource. I always thought my family was dysfunctional, but now I'm seeing the real thing, like exposed. It started super weird, not even dramatic. I noticed my phone was weirdly quiet in the morning. No "can you send" texts from my mom, no "call me back ASAP" from my dad. I actually got up and made breakfast without checking my balance. First time in months. It was too quiet, if that makes sense. I was scrolling on my phone. Then I saw a missed call from a number I didn't know. Local area code. I ignored. Then another call, then another. Turns out they were all from the mortgage company and the bank. Not even my parents. Like they'd already run out of options and started running down the list. I finally picked up on the third call just to see what they'd say. The woman was polite, sounded tired, like she'd done this 1,000 times already. She asked if I was aware of the sudden account changes and missed payments. I told her straight out, yeah, I'm aware I'm not paying anymore. Please direct everything to my parents from now on. She paused and said, okay, we'll update our system. Then she asked if there was a dispute or fraud investigation. I said, there's a family dispute, but no fraud, just that I'm not responsible for their stuff. She didn't seem surprised. A little while later, I got a text from my cousin, the one who called me Uncle ATM. He said, not even a hey, just are you mad at Grandpa? I said, ask your grandpa, not my circus. He sent a shrug emoji and that was it. I could see from his Insta stories that he was at some trampoline park, so I doubt he cared. Then my brother, who I haven't talked to in months, called. I let it ring, but then I got a wall of texts about how I'm ruining Mom's health and how the whole family is talking about me. I replied, you mean the whole family that never pays for anything? He sent back a bunch of angry faces and then nothing else. I know he's only calling because he's worried they'll ask him for money next. So yeah, the ripple effect is real. My parents didn't reach out right away. I thought they'd show up at my door again, but instead I started getting emails from the bank about account changes. They actually locked the joint account, so now nobody can access it. My mom texted me a bunch of question marks, and then when I didn't reply, she sent one word, wow. I went to get groceries, and when I was in line, I checked my notifications. I had a Facebook message request from my aunt, the one who always acts like a mediator. She asked if I could please just talk to them before things get worse. I replied with the same story about the barbecue toast, and she said, that's just your dad, he doesn't mean things. I said, he means them enough to say them in front of everyone. She left me on red. The next day was the real show. My phone started blowing up with notifications from the utilities saying the autopays failed. My mom texted, why isn't the water bill paid? I said, because I'm not paying it anymore. She replied, what are we supposed to do? I said, you could apologize. She said, why would I apologize for your dad's joke? Then she said, you're being dramatic. I stopped replying. Mid-afternoon, I was playing on my Switch when someone started banging on my door, not knocking, like fists slamming. I looked through the peephole and saw my dad red in the face and my mom behind him. I opened the door and before I could say anything, my dad said, what the hell did you do to the accounts? I said, I stopped letting you treat me like an ATM. He tried to push past me into my apartment. I blocked him. He shoved my shoulder. I shoved him back harder. My mom started crying, saying this is tearing the family apart. I told him, you did that, not me. My dad said, you're going to regret this. I said, not as much as you'll regret underestimating me. He got right up in my face, and for a second, I thought he was going to hit me. Instead, he spat out, you're dead to me, and stormed down the hall. My mom followed, sobbing. She slammed the stairwell door as she left. I just stood there for a second, breathing heavy. My neighbor poked his head out and asked if everything was okay. I said, yeah, just family drama. Sorry about the noise. He nodded and went back inside. That night, I got a call from the mortgage company again, different rep, asking if I could reconsider or if I wanted to set up a new payment arrangement. I said, no, it's not my house and not my problem. She said, okay, we'll note that. I could hear her typing. The next couple days were a blur of texts and calls, mostly from family. My aunt tried again saying I should think about Mom's health. My cousin messaged me on Snap saying my dad was telling everyone I stole the house. I replied, ask him who's been paying for it the last year. Cousin said, not my business, just thought you should know. I started getting passive-aggressive messages on Facebook from some distant relatives I barely know saying I should take care of my elder. I blocked them. My sister called once, said she was staying out of it, but maybe you could just help Mom out this month, just for now. I laughed and hung up. One particularly weird moment. My mom texted me a photo of their empty fridge. She said, hope you're happy. I replied, you could sell the fancy watch Dad bought on the cruise. She left me on read. I'm pretty sure they already pawned it. The next day, my dad called and left a voicemail. This time, his voice was quieter, more tired. He said, we're going to lose the house. I didn't reply. I went for a run instead. I saw on my way back that my parents' car wasn't in their driveway anymore. Later, I checked Facebook and saw my mom had posted a long rant about ungrateful children and how you think you know someone. Comments were mixed. Some people told her to get over it. Some sided with her. I just watched it play out, didn't comment. My cousin, the one who called me ATM, texted me late that night, said, are you really going to let them lose everything? I said, after what they said at the barbecue? He said, that's just how he is. He's old. I said, being old doesn't mean being cruel. He didn't reply. I muted the chat. All week, I kept getting little reminders of how much I was actually doing for them. Netflix password stopped working, and my mom texted me, is the TV broken? I said, try paying your own bills. She replied with a gif of a crying baby. I just ignored it. My aunt called, more urgent this time. She said, your mom isn't eating, your dad is making phone calls all day. I said maybe they should call a real bank, not me. She got mad. Said I was turning my back on family. I said, family doesn't humiliate you in front of everyone for laughs. She hung up. At some point, my dad texted me saying, you'll regret this when you're old and alone. I replied, at least I'll have peace. The last real straw was when my sister messaged me a screenshot of the mortgage company's late notice. She said they're going to lose the house and it'll be your fault. I said I already paid for it for a year. When are you going to help? She said she can't right now. Classic. The group chat is dead now. Nobody is sending memes. Nobody is talking about the cousin's wedding anymore. I feel like I nuked my whole family. But honestly, I don't regret it. Not even a little. I guess the big moment was when my mom called and actually left a voicemail saying, we have nowhere left to go. I didn't pick up. I was making dinner, watching some random YouTube video, trying to just not think about it. I know they're scrambling. I know they're calling everyone they know, trying to get help. But I'm out. I'm done. I told them last check they'd ever see from me, and I meant it. If they show up again, I'll update. I'm not scared of them anymore. I'm not their ATM. They can figure it out. Next post will probably be the end of it. I don't know what else they can do at this point, but I'm not budging. Let them see what real consequences feel like. Final update. So I don't even know how to start this one, because for real, it honestly feels like I'm living in some weird alt universe now. Like the kind of universe where people who once acted like you were invisible suddenly remember you exist, but only when they're desperate. Yesterday was the first time in a long time I heard total silence from my phone all morning. No texts, no calls, not even a meme from my cousin's kid. I went out for coffee, scrolled through the news, just kind of sat there thinking about how quiet everything was. I actually watered my plants for once, which is probably the most normal I've felt in months. Then around 2, I heard a car pull up outside. I live on a pretty average street. You can hear everything through the window. I peeked out and saw this old rusty sedan parked where my parents' SUV used to be. It looked like the car my dad used to complain about. He called it a death trap when I was a teenager and said he'd never drive it again. But here they were, both my parents sitting inside looking like they hadn't slept. My dad was gripping the steering wheel, just staring. My mom was hunched over her phone, but not doing anything. They didn't get out for a solid 10 minutes. I watched them just sit there and argue, hands waving, faces all tight. Finally, my dad gets out, slams the car door. He limps a little. I guess standing in line at the pawn shop takes a toll. IDK. My mom follows, clutching her purse so tight it looks like she's going to crush it. They walk up to my door. My dad knocks, not hard, but with that weird insistence like he thinks I owe him this. My mom stands behind him, eyes on the ground, not saying a word. I didn't open the door right away. Honestly, I just stood there listening. My dad called out, voice cracked, said my name. My mom barely got out a please. I finally opened it, kept my foot behind the door so they couldn't just shove in. My dad doesn't waste time. He jumps right to, we're in trouble. You have to help us. My mom tries to squeeze past him, so I block her. I say, you need to back up. She looks at me like I slapped her, but I don't move. My dad starts this monologue about family, says I'm being cruel, that I can't just let them rot in the street. I tell him I didn't spend their savings. He cuts me off, says, you know your mother's not strong enough for this. My mom pipes up, says she can't sleep, she can't eat, it's all too much. She actually tries to grab my arm, but I pull back. She whimpers, says, you used to be a good son. I ask them, do you remember what you said at the barbecue? Do you remember the toast? My dad scoffs and says, that was a joke. You're still mad about a joke. My mom mutters, you take everything so seriously. I say, you humiliated me in front of everyone and then expected me to just keep paying. I say, I warned you this was the last check. I kept my promise. My dad starts pacing, getting louder. He says, you're punishing us for nothing. He says, you're ruining your own family. My mom starts to cry, but it's not even real tears, just that high-pitched whine she does when she wants something. She says, we have nowhere to go. Your father's health is bad. The house is gone. You don't care if we end up homeless. I say, I cared for a long time, but I'm done. I say, you can call my sister. You can call Aunt Mary. Call the bank. Hell, call the mortgage company. I'm out. Then my dad gets up in my face, tries to push past me. I block him with my arm. He tries again harder, so I shove him back. He stumbles, swears at me, says, you're a disgrace. I say, I'm not your ATM anymore. My mom wails, says, we're your parents. You have to help us. I say, not anymore. They stand there stunned. My dad looks at me like he's never seen me before. My mom's mascara is smudged. She keeps sniffing. She says, what are we supposed to do? I say, you're adults. Figure it out. I tell them, there are shelters. There's government help. There's other family. My dad mutters, nobody else cares. I say, now you know how it feels. He tries one more time to guilt me, says, you'll regret this when we're gone. I say, maybe, but I won't regret standing up for myself. My mom tries to slap my arm weakly, like she's too tired to even be angry. My dad just stands there breathing heavy, then finally turns and storms back to the car. My mom follows, shoulders hunched. She doesn't look back. They get in the sedan and just sit there for a minute, then drive off slow. I watch them go and close the door. The group chat is still dead. My cousin sent a half-hearted meme this morning. Nobody replied. My aunt tried to call. I didn't answer. I saw on Facebook that my mom posted something vague about betrayal and forgiveness. I left it alone. I made dinner, watched some random show, and realized I don't feel bad. I don't even know. Not good, not bad, just done. For once, I'm not waiting for the next shoe to drop. I'm not checking my phone every 10 minutes. I guess this is what peace feels like, even if it's awkward and kind of empty. I'm not saying I won or that I'm some hero. I just finally stopped being the family wallet. Maybe they'll figure things out, maybe they won't. I'm not their safety net anymore. If you're reading this and you're in the same boat, just know you don't have to let people treat you like a resource forever. You can walk away. It's not easy, it's not pretty, but it's real. And sometimes real is enough. I don't know what's next, but I know it's not this. That's it.